Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to the February Parish Council meeting, Hayfield Parish Council. We'll start off with apologies for absence.
Councillor Bevins.
Just the one. Variation of order of business. I'd like to put my 2 pence in here. I think we have got, well, 2 things. First of all, the community orchard is down as item 12 and the old school field is down as 16. I'd like to do the old school field before the community orchard because I think there's some things to discuss at the old school field which are relevant to the community orchard programme. Yeah. So rather than us intertwine the 2 or backtrack, I would suggest that that we do 16 before 12. So that's my proposal. Will anyone second that?
Second.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. All in favour? Yeah, there's enough hands there. Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 3, declaration of members' interests. Nope. Okay. To receive, item 4, to receive, if appropriate, approve requests for dispensation from members on matters in which they have a disclosable pecuniary interest. I wouldn't think there's anything on the agenda for that, is there? No.
If booze not being mentioned, no.
I'm sorry?
The application for booze is being withdrawn, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, it has.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was an invalid application.
Yeah.
I'll repeat that when we get to it, when we get to the agenda. 5, to determine which agenda item, if any, should be taken with the public excluded. I think that applies to agenda item 15, which is an employment matter. So I think we need to change 15 and put that at the end of the meeting after the group, after the finance and accounts for payment to the next date of next meeting. Public speaking we don't have. Minutes of the previous meeting to confirm the minutes.
Can I say something, Tony?
Surely.
I've had lots of complaints about the no grit bin in Cope Lane. The Derbyshire County Council grit bin, which was at the end of Hayfield Road and adjacent to Cope Lane, has been removed. I've been on to Derbyshire County Council and they're going to do something about it. How quick, I'm not sure. And also I've reported it to Andy. They're complaining the bin at the bottom of Cope Lane, which is ours, the lid is broken. Thank you.
Okay. What's the situation with the budget on the? We'll have a look at that at another time. But you know, when you say Cope Lane, is there just the one that's? Because I thought there was a bin at the top of Cope Lane.
Yeah, well, the top one is a private one.
Right.
The middle one, which was near the bungalow, has disappeared, which is Derbyshire County Council. And the one down at the bottom is ours with a broken lid. Okay.
Andy, could you inquire from DCC what the situation is with the one on Cope Lane that's disappeared?
I've got a reference number. I've reported it, Tony.
Oh, have you? Oh, right.
It's in hand.
Right. Hopefully, knowing DCC.
Yeah, I just had it. I'm not sure how quick, but they're going to replace it.
Right. Oh, hopefully we'll have it for the summer holidays.
Yeah, I said to them. This winter, not next.
Yeah. Okay, I've nothing to add. 7, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, the Council and Finance budget setting meeting on the 20th of January.
I'll propose them.
Thanks, Thanks, Dave Toft. All in favour? Thanking you.
Can I've just got a horrible feeling that I don't think we confirmed the minutes of the 6th of January, the proper parish council meeting.
At the last meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all cited on because they were sent out before the budget setting meeting.
Right.
That was the meeting that set the budget setting meeting as a proper parish council meeting. So we're in a weird situation. We've got 2 parish council meetings in January.
Well, yeah, if to approve them twice won't do any harm anyway, will it?
Yeah. So that was Wednesday the 6th.
Okay. Dave Tufts
Proposed.
proposed them. Dave Gates seconded them. All in favour? So they're approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that, Andy. Chair's announcements. I've nothing except to say that the first Thursday in May, as we've previously discussed, there'll be an election for the vacancy on the assumption that the elections do go ahead. Government are making all the noises that they will, but in the present climate, I find it difficult to see how people can go around distributing leaflets and knocking on doors. But anyway, assuming that they go ahead, that's when the by-election will be, and we're notifying the returning officer of the Borough Council accordingly. Clerk's report. We've all had the clerk's report. Is there anything you want to add to your report, Andy?
No, I've sent you the pictures of a little bit. Sorry, the Valley Road Recreation Area Bridge. There's more gaps in it than I'd anticipated, and I think Dave spotted it because there's more spaces for gaps than the original design allowed for. So that looks lovely, looks great, it's finished. I've got a bit of work to do, chasing up invoices and looking for other donors with the assistance of the Civic Trust, who made their commitment back in March 2019 to assist with the payments of some. So it's still a work in progress. Looks lovely as it is. It'd be nice to fill all the blanks.
At long last.
At long last, but in a way, I feel it was worth waiting for.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's worth waiting for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a bit of thanks to the Civic Trust who've been talking to me, and yeah, see how we do. And I've nothing else. Any questions, anybody?
Questions, comments? Martin?
What about footpath 44? Are we going to get it realigned now with the bridge?
That's Jackie's project. It's still there, footpath 44 on my reserves. It's not my most pressing task at the moment, Martin, I've got to tell you, but it never seems to go away in terms of the jobs to do. So yeah, well remembered.
Are they still doing the work down there, DCC? Because there was a footpath closed, wasn't there, further along?
It isn't.
They've
It isn't open.
Yeah, it's been closed, a series of temporary closures. But I wonder if somebody up there has been putting notices up, actually, because they've all gone down at the moment. Yeah, Eva, you probably know.
I've reported it several times, and they are official notices. But the man at the farm adjoining, not higher up to the right, has been removing them and putting his up.
Right.
So they're on the case now because it's very dangerous.
Right.
And they're aware of the being moved, are they, Eva?
Yeah, very well aware.
Good.
The neighbours have reported it as well as myself.
Yeah, this morning I just noticed all that was left was the map, and all the notices had been taken off.
I'll give them a ring tomorrow or email them tomorrow again.
Yeah.
Okay. Mick?
Yeah, Tony, because the bridge looks really good, they're very impressed with that. It's sort of made the skateboard area look a little bit less sort of, it just needs a little bit of a spruce up, maybe, possibly some paint on it. I don't know if it's relevant to mention that now, but something perhaps we could look at in the future. One or two people have mentioned it to me. It just looks a bit, if you compare it to the bridge looks so good.
Yeah, it shows everything else up.
Yeah, skate park looks a little bit sort of run down at the moment. Just a bit of paint would bring it up to scratch.
Andy, we have a look at that, and if necessary, bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah, the Mr. Diamond has been commissioned for the full annual ROSPA playground inspection, and I'm very confident that one of those, I think he'll be asking me to do things with the skate park. So yeah, I'll bring it up. Okay.
It may be that if he is coming after the next meeting, we might roll it forward to April, but it's if we do need to do something, this is the time of the year to be planning it. Okay. Moving on, planning applications, as discussed earlier, the first one, the National Park 1096 Booth Farm, was invalid, so there's nothing to discuss there. B is Holly Farm, Kinder Road, Hayfield, removal of buildings and a new, well, it says a new annex. I would call it a new building, but does anyone want to kick us off there? Martin?
It's in green belt and in the conservation area, so whatever's got to be put there, it's got to be right. But I mean, it's the same thing as what we had last time, where an annex for a relative.
Was it a holiday cottage last time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than a dependent relatives.
Yes.
Yeah. Has anyone any comments on it? A CDCC on the highways made a comment that it should be one dwelling, as it were. You know, so in other words, it used to be a section 52. Is it as? Oh God, I've forgotten what the number is now. It's not a section 52, but that they can only be sold in its entirety. It can't be sold as two separate dwellings. That is their recommendation. But the way it's worded, the application, it could be dependent relative, it could be a holiday cottage. Does no one want to make a comment? Should we just say no comment then?
I think we've got to be careful if it is for a dependent relative and then it can't be changed into a holiday cottage. Can we comment on that in some way?
Are you saying you don't have no objection if it's a dependent relative, but you don't want it to be a holiday cottage?
Yeah, because there's enough confusion in that area without any more.
Well, I'll take that as a proposal. Does anybody want to second that, or Martin wants to second that? Okay, let's move to a vote on that then. All those in favour of Eva's recommendation that it's planning be given for dependent relatives but not a holiday cottage? We have got unanimity. Okay, Andy, could you make comments on that? I think previously the parish council did object to it when it was a holiday cottage, so yeah, it is at least consistent with the previous application on this site.
So I make a comment, not an objection or an approval. That's
right, just a comment. And then 0018 4 Ferrybank Crescent, proposed two-story side extension. Has anyone?
I've no objections. I think it's a good way of them being able to stay there because houses are so dear and it won't affect anybody. I don't have an objection. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah.
Okay, so no objection then, Andy.
Got it.
All in favour of that? Yeah, unanimous again. I like it when it's unanimous. Feel as though we're all doing together. Use of parish council logo on decarbonised information flyer. Is this you, Mick?
Yeah, it's basically you all recall the decarbonised initiative that I brought to the council, or I alerted the council to about a couple of months ago, I think it was, regarding the EU grant being organised by DCC to provide local businesses with up to 40% of the cost of any environmental improvements they care to carry out. The actual information leaflet is going to be put together in the near future, and Sustainable Hayfield have agreed to pay for that. I just want to bear in mind we all endorsed the actual initiative last time. I think we all did anyway. Can't quite remember. It was unanimous. If we could just put the parish logo in the corner along with the other logo, Sustainable Hayfield, in the other corner, just gives it a little bit more kudos when it's being shown to various businesses.
I'll take that as a proposal.
That's right.
The logo on the Dave Toft.
Yeah, have we seen the final wording of it,
No.
Mick?
Well, it's just basically, Dave, if you did want to see the final wording, but it's just basically a summary of the all the information that we were presented with before.
No, I mean, I accept that's what it's going to be, but I think before we put our logo on it, which is, we do need to actually see the leaflet, don't we?
Yeah, did Laurie produce the leaflet yet, Andy? Did he actually finalise the wording on it?
Just looking. I'm just looking. It
Um,
wasn't on that email, was it? That I distributed. I'm just wondering. Just give me a second.
I've got Eva and Jackie to come in when Andy's
if you prefer it that way, we can get. I mean, we can't go round to the businesses at the moment, particularly anyway.
Yeah, there's no rush.
If you prefer it to actually see the document, then we can do it. Do you have it, Andy?
There we go. I don't know if you've actually approved this. This is showing as a draft, but there you go.
Haven't seen it before.
Maybe the councillors might like to browse over this, email it to them, Andy, for next time.
Yeah.
It's essentially a basic summary of the all the proposals that we mentioned before, with a number of businesses at the bottom. If you just hold it there, Andy, which actually have already taken advantage of the scheme. As you can see, one guy there's got £14,000 from it, and then you can go as low as 1,000. But as I say, it's a summary of what's available, and with at the bottom, and if you just scroll up again, is the telephone number and the email address of the people who can help you. They will come down to give a little summary, a little advice session to the business, let them know where they can make improvements, and then they can make the call themselves after that. But maybe it's up to you all. If you want to have a read of this prior to the next meeting, that's fine with me. Or you can browse if you, I don't know if you've got time to have a look at it now. But it's just a summary of what was presented to us before.
I just looked at it, and it looks like it's a straight lift from the DCC's, the actual.
It is.
DCC, and you're basically just going to end up on the top right or top left with our logo on it.
Yeah, and Hayfield on the other side. Hayfield has Sustainable Hayfield are paying for the actual leaflet to be produced.
Okay, from Eva was first, then Jackie, and then Dave Toft.
I agree that we should see it first and be able to look at it before the next meeting and come back with a decision then, please.
Fair enough.
Jackie.
We had a very good presentation on this subject from the people concerned, and I thought it sounded really good. Looking very quickly, super fast, high speed glance at it, it's a Derbyshire County Council initiative, and indeed at the very bottom of the leaflet, you're advised to contact an email address that's obviously derbyshire.gov. And I'm thinking that if we're putting logos on it, we need also to put the Derbyshire County Council logo on it, because it would be confusing otherwise, I think, because it is actually their initiative. It's Sustainable Hayfield, and maybe our initiative to go around Hayfield door knocking or distributing the leaflet, but it is actually from Derbyshire County Council, and people need to apply via Derbyshire County Council. Have I got that right?
Yeah,
that's right. But that address is at the bottom, Jackie. So are you suggesting the logo should be somewhere there as well?
Yes, I am, because it's otherwise we'll, in spite of the fact it says contact Derbyshire County Council, people will clock the Sustainable Hayfield and the Parish Council logos and think it's to do with them. Well, it is, we're promoting it, but actually all the applications and so forth need to go through Derbyshire County Council. So maybe it would be helpful if their logo was there.
Dave Toft.
Yeah, just getting back to Jackie, actually, I think that's difficult because Derbyshire County Council would have to approve it going on to that thing, even though it's been in effect lifted from them. I mean, well, I think what we have to decide is do we want our logo on that? And we probably do. but we do need to have had a quick
yeah.
look at it before we agree to that.
Mm.
Perhaps, Mick, we could make it more prominent that
Yeah.
what we're doing is advising people to contact DCC, rather than just a little address at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I don't think DCC, if we're putting that out with Sustainable Hayfield, and what we're in effect saying is, here's a scheme, we're approving of it, and if you want to be involved in it, contact DCC.
Yeah.
But if
Jack-
Jackie, if they were going to have their logo on it, it would have to go to a meeting of theirs.
Okay.
So,
May I just make another comment? I think you're right. I think maybe we could do it with just a change of font size, so that instead of this little address at the bottom, it's a bit more bold.
Fair enough. I'll pass that on to the people who are constructing the leaflet, and we'll get it to the group before next meeting.
That sounds great. I think generally we're sympathetic. We just want to have it ducks in a row. Martin.
Yeah. It says part EU funded project. Are we still getting any money from EU?
Yeah, until the middle of next year it is, Martin. October next year. So we got 18 months with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well, but it is the case.
Okay, well, if you sort that out, I'm sure.
Okay, so if we can get the information out to the councillors in the next week or two, Andy, before the next meeting, yeah?
Yeah, and as Jackie says, a change of font would probably suffice. But,
yeah, on the Derbyshire address, yeah.
Okay. We agreed to bring forward item 16 next, the old school field. So, Andy, have you anything to say? A number of us have been down there to have a look.
I've waited. I think councillors who went out to have a look. I've got my opinion on it, but I'd like to know what the councillors.
Okay, Eva, will you start us off?
Yeah.
And then Kath.
Lisa and I went in the first instance together, and on entering the field, it just looked so neglected. The corner piece, excuse me, the corner piece of the field is all trodden up and in a real state. And the snake's head is the only visible aspect of the snake. And then arriving home, I rang Andy and told him of my concern and asked if he could fence that off to, save it deteriorating anymore and remove the snake's head and put it safe in the council offices. But apparently it's disappeared.
It's gone.
The whole area of the footpaths need the edges and the stones cleaning so that they are visible for people when they're walking. And I suggest it needs a good brush and shovel all the way round. The stage area, I went back to look at it because I wasn't satisfied. And I think the stage area needs all of it removing and reinstating. And I think it's something that we could get 3 prices on, because it is quite a big job and it needs doing properly for that to be carried out. Because if it's going to be used with children and we patch it up, there could be problems. The container, which is down there, it needs painting green, I think. Apparently, I can't say it on the Zoom because people would know what was in there, but we do need to use that. What are the rubbish bags that are stored at the side of it? I don't know, the black dustbin bags. If it's our stuff, it's not really very good because it's encouraging other people to dump the rubbish. And there's a big heap of stone and soil down the side of the contractors' huts. I don't know whether that is something they're using or it's something that's been dumped there. And the hard standing, I don't think we can do anything about that till the contractors have gone. And they seem very fair. I would think probably they would make some allowance for that because they have used it. But generally, I just feel it's very neglected. The edging stones, and there's one missing near the bridge, but that can be soon replaced. and the steps need some maintenance. But I think the most money is to be spent on that stage, and I think it's time we did put that right. And it is so well used, that field, that people walk there all the time. And when there's no edging stones, it's dangerous, particularly for children. And that's why I went back the second time to have a look. And I think it needs doing properly. Thanks.
Kath, you had your hand up.
Yes, sorry. The snakes has disappeared, as you say, and you made my point actually, Eva. I was going to say the steps are very uneven and scruffy going up to the scout hut. We have got a plan from the orchard project. Can I mention that now or during the orchard project?
Go on, mention it now, and then we'll bear it in mind.
There was a fence which was provided by the DCC, I think, on their land, on the boundary with our land, the land to the right of the scout huts. When you're looking at the scout hut that goes up onto the bypass, and there was a fence that went right round the boundary, which I think was provided by DCC. It went rotten and it had to be taken away and sawn up. Now, I'm told by my predecessors, Andy Ramwell, that the DCC are not going to replace it. And there's concern. It is the gap between there and the bypass is quite narrow. There's no kids been reported running up there, but a couple of dog owners have said their dogs have run up and finished up on the bypass without a boundary. So Andy was suggesting that we do a bit of, he calls it a dead hedge, brash, sort of around that, where the old fence used to be. It's like a bit of community art with some fruit bushes in between it, just to make a visual boundary.
Okay, thanks for that. There's Jackie, then Dave Toft, then Eva. Jackie.
I was wondering where the steps were, but I think you've answered my question. You mean the ones up to the scout hut?
Yeah.
Right. And the boggy corner, which one was that? Which corner?
It's a corner as you go on to the school field from the village side.
From the village side, okay.
Yeah, there's a corner there, and there's lots of footprints. I can't tell what's been going off, but if it isn't protected, when the summer comes, it'll take a lot longer to come back to, to the grass.
About dogs, I would say they're technically meant to be on a leash, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Dave Toft.
Sorry. I think we passed at a previous meeting, Andy, that we would put up a bush. I think we've already done that. The area behind the fence leading up to the bypass is potentially very dangerous. I did one of the village litter picks there, and it was appalling actually what was there. And of course at the top you go straight onto the bypass.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that we discussed that and thought of putting a thick hedge. So we might have already passed that in principle anyway. The snake, it was great when it was there, but it looked dreadful. I went down as well, Eva. It looked dreadful, that corner, and it's the first place where you go in there, and it just looked really neglected and trodden on and so on. The steps definitely need attention. I mean, for the last 3 years, we've done the bonfires there, and at night, even with the lighting from the hut and so on, with lots of kids, lots of people around there, it needs looking at, definitely, that area, that whole area there. Yeah.
Okay, Eva and then Martin.
Regarding people saying the dogs going up the banking, the dogs shouldn't be loose on that field in any case. And yes, the steps do need doing, but I think it needs somebody who does that sort of work. I think we're at the stage we need to spend some of our money on that field.
Yeah, definitely.
Martin.
We did have a proposal for hedges about 5 years ago when they took down the fence, and someone was going to come and give it a talk on a hedge with berries and everything in to make that barrier where the original fence was. It has been passed.
Okay. Jackie?
I think it was to do with the Wildlife Trust. I think it was a recommendation from them or somebody who has a contact with them that we should do something, as Martin suggested, something that was a hedge that was functional but also good for wildlife.
Okay, thanks for that. Kath?
Yeah, I spoke to Julie Goff, who was one of Andy's predecessors as the clerk, and she told me that there had been an initiative with Derbyshire Wildlife Trust and the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust CIC called Wildscapes. And that was a pretty ambitious project to do a community arts project to make a natural fence with fruit bushes and everything. We're a bit reticent to take on a large project, as great as it would be, because of the social distancing and everything. We just thought it would be a minefield, because you're supposed to involve, you know, the community in this. Now, Andy, Andy Ramwell does have the skills to do a dead hedge. That's what they call it. It's weaving the existing bushes and then putting stakes in and planting fruit bushes there. And that would be a low body count sort of thing to do that, where we wouldn't have to worry about social distancing and everything. And we're down to about 5 volunteers, and you know, we could cope with social distancing there. So and that, plus it wouldn't cost anything. The Wildlife Trust thing would cost a fortune.
Okay, Dave Toft and then Jackie.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit confused here, Kath. I think we as a parish council definitely has sort of suggested that we could go ahead with a hedge. When you're saying we, which we is that? Because
well, I'm sorry, I thought I'd explained. I spoke to Julie Goff,
yeah,
who initiated the project when she was clerk, but for some reason it never went ahead.
No, I don't think the project came before us. We'd have to check the minutes. Julie might have been investigating further things on our behalf, but that never came back to the council.
All right.
That was never voted on, but I do remember a vote saying that a natural barrier of some sort would be very useful.
Right. So there's already permission for it.
But then you said, no, I don't think we ever got as far as that. Julie might well have investigated. But when you say we don't necessarily couldn't go ahead with that, are you talking about us, or are you talking about
the Orchard Group? Because it would involve too many people. It's the social distancing thing that we'd be worried about.
Okay, and I know that Jackie and Martin have indicated they wish to speak, but I think we're drifting a bit. If can we first of all stick to the particular thing on the agenda, which is the old school field, and then we'll talk latterly about the hedge, because I think it's an important issue, and it is on, if you excuse the pun, it is on the edge of the old school field. But let's talk about the old school field first. Do one thing, get out of the way, and then move on to the hedge. So going back to the old school field, when I went down there, it was during the day, and I was amazed how well used it was. I think it must be the best used piece of land that we have. Yeah. People nipping into the village and that. As Eva says, the stage or platform, one of the gaps between the flags was 1.5 inches. Another one at least was over 1 inch. So it could be pointed, but in all honesty, I don't think it'd last too long. You know, if you got 12 or 18 months out of it, that'd be as much. I was also disappointed about the trees. I thought some of them have been pruned. There hadn't been much pruning, but what pruning had been done had just been dropped in the grass, and you know, I think they could have easily been taken away and burnt or whatever. And as Eva said, I think the container needs something doing to it. Would help as well if the scouts did something about the building, because that's looking a bit tired as well. But anyway, we'll perhaps discuss that at another time. So, what are we going to ask Andy to do? We're going to ask him to get prices for the steps, which might need relaying, and for work on the Martin.
What about that list which was proposed last time with electrics, etc.?
We can't do that, can we?
Why not? If you're doing the steps, you can put the cables down in it, protecting them.
What use do we get?
For events.
In the dark?
Well, it wouldn't be in the dark if it had electric, but it would be expensive. Dave Toft.
Yeah, there's a couple of things really. Obviously, I think we're right. We need to spend some money on it. It is well used. It's both as a footpath and as a destination in itself. But we're talking about a long-term project there, and that was a sort of wish list, wasn't it, that was put to us? And we've got to look at staging that really. I think certain things look fairly urgent to do, but we might be better for the longer term, wait until the contractors are out of the way, because that does distort your whole perception of the field at the moment, a whole corner of it taken up, the work going on the bypass and things. So we might want to look at these more urgent elements to it, but when the contractors have finished and gone, we'll be able to go down and have a look at the field as a whole, won't we? Because we've got things in the far corner, we've got all sorts of aspects to it that we might want to develop over the next 2 or 3 years, really. It's difficult because the presence of all that on the field there does distort the way you look at it at the moment.
So you're proposing that we defer it for a month or so?
No.
No, not certain things. I think the steps and other things we could do as we go, but that we see it as a rolling program, and that once the contractors have gone, we look at it as a more whole thing, which might take in the lighting and things like that. But at the moment, it struck me the steps in particular and the barrier of some sort along there, we need to look at those more urgently.
Okay, Eva and then Mick.
Can I propose that we get some quotes for the steps and the stage, and the gardeners or the handyman cleans all those edges up, and it'd look a different place if they were done.
I'll take that as a proposal, Eva.
Yeah.
Okay, Mick.
Yeah, I was just going to say what Dave was saying about the things, and what Eva mentioned as well, that are urgent, because I walk over there regularly most days, and the things which are probably the most urgent in my thinking is the actual slabs, or the I don't know what you call them.
Paving stones?
Sorry?
Paving stones?
It's sort of paving stones, yeah. They need to be leveled off. There's 4 or 5 of them that are sticking up. They're potentially dangerous. But do you need a skilled builder to do that?
Yes.
Need a quote from a building company, or could maybe the people that we employ could maybe just tap them down?
I
don't know if they're if you need
Mick, I'll just bring Andy in.
A skilled craftsman for that.
Last year, because the 2 contracted gardeners are hard landscapers as well, I had gone to both of them last year for just this job. Did they have the skill set to lift the entire stage, cut back the stage and relay all the steps? And looking at their portfolios, they do. So I was looking to get them to quote in-house, because there was going to be extra work on top of normal council works. So I would put to you that they probably do have those skills, but whether you as council want me to consider it an in-house job or to take a second quote, I'll leave that to yourselves.
We'll come back to that,
Quotes.
Andy.
It'd just be 2 quotes looking at our standing orders.
Okay. Dave Toft.
Yeah, I agree with what Eve has said there. I just wondered if we could include in that, Eva, the third aspect of looking at a hedge as part of that first wave.
Yeah, I was going to propose that after the Eva thing,
Right.
leaving it till next. Okay, I think we've done this quite. Eva has suggested, I think, picking up on what Dave said, that it is a bit of a rolling programme over the next 2, 3, probably 3 years, but that initially we should look at getting the stage and the steps up in a safer and better condition. Eva's proposed that. I'll second it. Can I take it to the vote? All those in favour of that proposal? That's carried unanimously. Now moving to the hedge. Dave, I'm going to come back to you, Dave Toft.
Yeah.
What do you want to do about the hedge?
Well, I mean, we've talked about different aspects to the hedge, but I think the original thing that we looked at was some sort of dense hedge barrier.
Like a holly bush or something like that?
Anything. It would be a refuge for wildlife. Any hedges like that will encourage it. It doesn't need to be part of a much bigger project. I think, Kath, you'd agree with that. I think any nice hedging there would protect the people in the field from the banking, but it would also provide a better environment along there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would be particularly expensive or
no. We've planned to integrate fruit bushes into it, and we can get free fruit bushes from the Woodland Trust that we've signed up to. So
I don't think the cost would be that great. I think we can go ahead and
minimal,
do it. Jackie.
Absolutely minimal.
I think I'm going to repeat Dave Toft's question. It's who's we?
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about parish council land. We're going to do work on it. So I would have thought the we were the people here present.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't get you.
Well, I think the question is, when you say we, are you talking about Sustainable Hayfield or are you talking about the parish? I think that's the question, Kath.
To me?
Yeah.
Oh, right. No,
when
the Orchard project. Yes, part of the Orchard project.
Right.
But we haven't made the decision. The council hasn't devolved responsibility to the Orchard project for fencing the old school field.
No, but that was it's a coincidence because that was part of our year ahead planting plan, and it's a coincidence that we're doing work on the old school field. So the two have met at the crossroads.
That's an opportunity.
Dave, it's you. I'm hoping you're going to make a proposal now.
I will. I'm going to propose, I'll ask you for some sort of wording generally, but I'm going to propose that we proceed as quickly as possible with the planting of an effective hedge there. I don't think, there was a mention of hollybush, but I don't think that, because it's not particularly good to other forms of growth, is it? I think the hedge is, anyway, but some sort of thick hedge, and there's no reason why we shouldn't work in cooperation, I suppose, with other groups who might want to contribute trees and things to that. But we as a parish council should, I'll propose, should work as soon as we can, really, to plant a hedge there.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Martin, you've got your hand up.
Since it was the boundary fence for the highways, do they have a responsibility?
I think we just do it.
I think for the cost of it, Martin, and I'm not sure that they have got a responsibility, because, you know, if you look at it, if you go up over Peeper Day, there's parts of that, so there's no footpath or anything. So I don't think they have a responsibility to fence in any way, albeit with hedging the roadside. So I think the answer to that is no.
Well, they took the fence down.
Yeah.
We asked the question at the time, and we were told we didn't need a hedge because the saplings had all grown up and constituted a barrier. You know, you have to work your way through the trees to get onto the road.
Right. I've got Eva, and then I've got Kath. Eva.
I'd like it to be supervised by Andy, as it is our property, and we would be responsible if a hedge was put there if there was any damage to anybody. I know it sounds silly, but in this day and age, we've got to be very careful. And I would not like it to go into other people's hands if it wasn't supervised by Andy.
Okay, Kath, and I'm going to have 2 pence myself, and then we'll move to the vote.
My story that I got from Andy was that the original fence was a DCC fence, and it was removed because it was rotten, and the DCC said at the time they wouldn't be replacing it, and if we wanted it replacing, the parish council would have to do it. But I've not got that in writing or anything. This is just what I'm told by my
That was correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dave has proposed that we arrange the ask Andy to arrange the erection of a hedge in some suitable using something that's suitable for give a thick cover and protection for wildlife. And I'll second that proposal. So all those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, that was a long one. Moving on to community orchard and the management structure and parish council responsibility. I think in a nutshell, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but the community orchard originally revolved around working with the school and the Apple Day and a community event, which the parish council was supportive of. But the community orchard seems to have grown somewhat and seems to have spread its wings. So I think what we've got to decide is, are we going to treat it as a liaison committee with 2 councillors on it and encourage a constitution, or the other alternative is to say, well, actually, this is too much for us. We'll let them get on with it and step back from it. I throw it open. Mick.
Yeah, I really thought about this, but I would say that we need to supervise it still. I think it's a significant part of the village, the orchard, the Apple Day, the whole thing. I think we should definitely have 2 councillors on it and do it properly. I'm not saying it wouldn't be done properly otherwise, but it's nice to keep tabs on it from the council's perspective. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, Eva.
I think if we carry on with it, it needs supervising from Andy with 2 councillors in control of it with Andy, and then everything brought back to the parish council. At the moment, it seems to have lost its way. It does belong to the parish council, and so it should be supervised by 2 councillors and our clerk. I'm easy if it's signed over to them, as long as it's done properly and we have a constitution if it stays with us.
Okay, my own view is that I've heard, and I'll put it no stronger than this is rumours, so I don't fasten a lot of credit to it. But I've heard talk about them setting themselves up as a community group or even a community company, which would be far removed from something to do with the council and as it were as the council being responsible for it. I'm all in favour of these community activities. I just don't want to have aspirations to rule the world or anything. I've got Dave and then Dave Toft and then Kath.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think your history sort of summary of it is very similar to mine. But I think the people involved with it as well have to understand that they can be freestanding, they can come to the council for help and support and things, as can any other group within the country, within the parish rather. But if they go ahead with this idea of somehow becoming a constituted body that is then part of the parish council in a sense, then it becomes our group, if you like. We have 2 councillors on it. It's not a freestanding body anymore, and it's subject to our regulations, our votes here are on the council. Is that what you're actually wanting to happen, Kath?
Yeah,
you know, it can't proceed as a separate body. And
no. We had a steering group meeting. There's about 5 people on the steering group. We did have quite ambitious plans to start a community enterprise with cider and all the produce, because we were producing more and more apple juice and cider. That, however, has all gone with the COVID. I would be very, very nervous of trying to extend anything, because it takes a fair bit of manpower, and we haven't got the scout groups and guide groups. We've got about 5 hardcore volunteers at the moment, and we'll be lucky if we even keep abreast of the work that needs doing. So we have no major ambitions at all at the moment. We're quite happy to be a parish council subgroup.
Have Jackie and then Eva.
Is it powers of general competence? Have I got the phrase right, Andy?
That is an expression, yeah, general competence.
General competence, yes. The parish council could do more if we were eligible, as it were. Have I got that right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, you use the power of general competence. Yeah. You could do more without reference to section 137 if you had a general power of competence.
So things like the juicing of the apples and the bottling.
Yeah, we use 137 to do that.
Right, but we could also use the power of general competence to give us more.
Yeah, interchangeable.
Yes. I mean, the thing is that the parish council is a very large community group in a sense, and it's established in 1894 and is likely to carry on for some years more. So it has the benefit of permanence, and also it has the benefit of being the landowner, which quite a lot of the trees are planted. As you rightly say, it was a project with the school, and quite a few trees are also on the school property. And there are 1 or 2 on DCC property, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Eva and then Dave Toft.
I think what concerns me is these steering groups and these groups. And yet when you go down onto the old school field, the tree containers are full of grass. There's a lot of broken them off from around the trees. There's no protection. And I don't feel they should even want to plant more trees. I think those trees we've got need looking after properly. And I think we've got to handle this with great care.
Dave Toft.
Yeah, I think both sides need to look at it in that sense. I mean, Jackie's right, we're part of the community, but we are not just a large community group. We are a part of local government. We are the bottom level, if you like, of local government. Now, again, no pun, but we're hedged in by a lot of constrictions in terms of what we can and can't do. And for a lot of groups that are community groups, that would hold them back in many ways. It's much better for them to be separate from us. and develop their own policies, and if and when they need our support, to come and ask for it, and we see whether we're able to do that. To actually, I mean, we've got to ask ourselves as a parish council, why would we want to have as part of our deliberations the Orchard Group rather than any other community group? And how would it benefit the Orchard Group? I mean, in many ways, it might hold you back from things you can do separate from us.
Kath, you wanted to come in, so perhaps you could start off by answering Dave's question.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to answer Eva's first. We've just done an inventory of everything that needs buying. The plastic guards that need replacing. We couldn't do anything until after the finance meeting on the 20th because we didn't know whether we had any money. So we're doing a complete inventory now, and a lot of the plastic guards do need replacing because they've been there years. You know, they've got wear and tear. I see Dave's. Yes, we were very ambitious as a group to create a community enterprise, but I'm afraid under the present circumstances, it's quite labour intensive, you see. So we struggled to get enough volunteers to even pick the apples last season. So our ambition has shrunk for the foreseeable future. We just want to stay self-contained and stay on top of the maintenance at the moment.
Dave, you want to come back again?
You can't be self-contained if you're part of us, Catherine. We're not here in a sense to just take in a community group that is struggling a little bit. We can support community groups in lots and lots of ways, but what you'd be doing is becoming part of the parish council. Now, we're aware that that means for ourselves, we're often very constricted. We move more slowly because of legal constrictions. That's frustrating for us as a council, and very frustrating for people in the community sometimes who think it's us that's going slowly. But I can't see how it benefits either group to become part of us, if you like, part of that legal framework that would really constrict you in terms, I don't mean commercial activity, but a lot of ideas that you might have that would flourish without the need for our approval. You couldn't go ahead and do anything without our approval if you then take this step.
Dave, are you, what have you any proposal?
What I propose is, I think it needs a lot more thinking here. I think it's not that by becoming part of us, Kath, that you would then simply get support and be able to carry on in the way that you have been carrying on. Every time you wanted to spend a quid or two, you'd have to come back and get our permission. Every time you had an idea, you couldn't go ahead with it. You'd have to bring it to a council meeting. Now, to me, that's very much a last resort in a way. And do we want that responsibility? I think you'd be far better trying to constitute yourselves as a community group and come to us as and when it's necessary. We're obviously all in favour of the idea of the Orchard project and always have been. But I don't think this is a major constitutional step for yourselves and us, and it would have huge implications for your freedom to exist outside.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, David. And the way I'm feeling at the moment, I'll leave the decision up to you. I think just the responsibility of trying to get a treasurer and everything else at the moment, we're down to a handful of keen supporters, and we have more than enough work than we can do at the moment. But if we're looking to the future, then by all means, I mean, we have already written up a constitution. So I don't want to make the decision. I'd rather you make the decision.
Jackie, you want to come back in?
I think one point of relevance is the fact that the trees are planted on parish council land.
Yeah.
Yes. So it restricts the independence, I would imagine.
Right. Well,
Tony, do you mind if I make a point?
No, please do.
The fact that the trees are on parish council land, because I don't know the history of this as well as perhaps as others in the group, but does that mean that the actual profits made from things like the apples and that, if there are any, come back to our funds at the council? Is there a benefit for us to stay in touch with this group in that regard?
I'll let Dave Toft answer that.
Well, there's a good point, really, because if it becomes part of us, it then is very restricted in things like commercial activity. You know, selling produce, selling various things becomes a bit more problematic.
Does the clerk agree?
Yeah, I do.
No, because we're publicly funded and we can't. So that's the kind of point I'm making, Kath. It's not against the Orchard Project,
Well,
obviously.
No, exactly. It's
Within
where
our
do we,
constitution, I seem to think there are restrictions with the allotments on actually selling produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds to me, Dave, that Kath, from what you were saying, Kath, you're almost inferring that you probably, at this stage, sooner it stayed with the council.
yes, that's
With
what
all the
I'm saying.
complications with the legal requirements, the constitution, all the there. I know what you were saying, Dave, that it may be a little bit of a hindrance to them, but for the time being, I think it might be a better idea if it just stayed with the group, with the council.
Well, it stops being them and us, it becomes us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no other.
And then have two councillors on there running it for them or with them.
Can I ask a question? Would we get the option to change our mind in the future if the world ever got back to normal?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
You know, because we made a decision now. If you waited 6 months, you could bring it back to the council. Jackie.
You might get more volunteers too after the end of COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
I think what you meant, Kath, is
yes.
I think Kath meant if you came under our umbrella at this point, could you then change your mind and come out of the umbrella?
Yes, that's what he just said.
In 6 months' time.
Yeah.
I assumed we were under your umbrella. I assumed I'm just a subgroup of the parish council. Perhaps I don't understand the where the Orchard Project actually sits within the parish council. It's all very confusing. I mean, you know, the first meeting said that Sustainable Hayfield was going to manage it completely. And that's another thing we had to sort out. So to me, I'm just a subgroup of the parish council. I do see what you're saying, Dave. In long term, it would be a lot better if we did have financial autonomy, if we did have an independent account and everything else. But at the moment, that would be a bit of an extra stress that we probably don't need. We're very down on hardcore volunteers.
I mean, I'm confused. Andy, what is the status? It's not a parish council subgroup, is it?
No,
I don't know.
Well, if it was, I'd like to know what an X going on, who's appointed who.
Yeah,
I have no knowledge of it, and there's no democracy in front of me and nothing that I can follow back. So
Well,
if
you're
it's
not
not
a group,
parish council, it's completely illegal at the moment.
Right. Well, let's move this. Try and move this forward. I'm not, but I am in effect pushing it down the road. I think it would be advantageous if Andy met with the group and reports back to the next meeting. We take a decision then, having Andy can have the opportunity to explain to them that, you know, the implications of it coming under the council and the limitations on spend and you know, selling apples and things.
Yeah,
Does that? How does that sound to you, Andy?
Yeah, that's.
Are you comfortable with that?
It's great. I mean, Kath very kindly put a history together, and the history just hangs with resolutions that were never fulfilled, and it's loose. So yeah, we'll discuss with whoever the steering group are.
Yeah.
whether it should be, and we'll come back with a better idea and maybe a clearer decision from whatever this body is.
Well, let's make that the main item on the March council meeting. If you could, if you could get on with that, Andy, because we've had various discussions and people will lose this. Now's that happened. Let's try and formalise our relationships. Okay, everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Then the next item is the tree survey results, which Andy's sent the details to us. Do you want to start us off, Andy?
I will do. It is quite. I apologise. It came in 3 parts. The most important documents was the one that documented the work that needed doing now, in effect, and we came out quite well. And I'll summarise it for you from the main areas. If we were to look at Little Hayfield, we'll start with them. Little Hayfield, the Clough Recreation, there was just 1 tree in need of felling or coppicing, a goat willow. And as luck would have it, their chosen contractor, Mr. Chapman, already went to work on that tree, realising that things needed doing then and there. I think it had fallen across the clough. So that's been looked after. Valley Road, there were 3 trees highlighted. An ash, which was looking for a crown clean, which could require professional treatment, a goat willow for felling and a birch for felling. Those goat willow and birch have been identified and they're within our capabilities to fell. What you probably don't know, Jackie will know, is that a decent tree surveyor, as our man was, applies to the relevant authority for the work to be done if we wish to do it. So the Valley Road work is already approved and the work in Little Hayfield was approved by the National Park and the Borough. The Borough, in respect of Valley Road, you'll notice 1001 the ash, Monica said, hold your fire, don't spend a load of money. I'd like to see that ash in June and see if it needs felling. So I'm putting a hold on that with you. What I'm going through at the end is, as long as you're happy, we will proceed with the felling of the goat willow and the birch, and the ash we'll wait for. I'll come back to Valley Road in a bit. The tricky one for me is the old school field, where there were 2 trees in immediate need of work, 1007 an ash for felling and 1008 a sycamore. And I had a horrible feeling they weren't on our land. Having checked again, the ash is. So I can proceed with a felling of that if our staff are professionally up to it and they're quite honest about what they can and can't do. The sycamore 1008, which our own staff have said that requires professional tree surgeons, is not on our land. And although that work was referred to the Borough Council, the advice there is if we take on that work, we're setting a bit of a precedent for ourselves. So if I just deal with that for now with you, which is Little Hayfield has been done. So unfortunately they jumped the gun on us. I can't ask for a decision, but I'd look for the authority to fell the 2 trees in Valley Road and hold fire on the ash. Permission to fell the ash tree in the old school field. And lastly, I'd seek direction to do with the sycamore that needs its crown reducing, which isn't on our land. Probably clear as mud to you, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jackie.
Can I ask, where the work is clear, as in either to fell the trees or to hold fire, do I have your permission to proceed?
I propose, yes.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favour? All right.
That's good. Right, now the next
Harry.
one, on adjacent to the river set and on the old school fields, a sycamore that needs a lot of work doing on it. It is not on our land. Do you?
I don't think we should. I don't think we should do it. I think we've made Monica aware of it, and as she's the tree officer, she should notify the landowner.
Right.
So I would say, I don't know what others feel, but I would say that we shouldn't go around doing, setting a precedent and
I agree.
maintaining fields, or else we'll be doing every field, every tree in the village.
Is it adjacent to the river?
Yes. It is. I'll just pull it from the map.
It's very adjacent to the river.
Very, very
Yeah.
good. The river.
Okay. The last time a tree fell across the river, we dealt with it.
But if we start doing everybody's trees, we'll be in for a longer order.
It isn't everybody's trees. It's on land that doesn't belong to anybody.
Near the weir, there was a tree that fell across the river, and then the water United Utilities or the river authority did it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
their place to do it.
Yeah, they did one in New Mills,
Right.
which was blocking up the river, and
Right. Well,
the
Peter
water
left
was
out-
going under the bridge because it fell right next to the bridge at Watford Road.
They need to get in touch with the river authority. Or
I won't leave it. I will try and look for someone to take responsibility for it, as I did with the one behind the electricity substation, which in previous years this council had worked on, and then I realised that no, it wasn't ours.
No.
And I did get United Utilities to contact and move on that one. So I won't leave it, Jackie, if it's dangerous.
Right. Okay.
Dave Toft.
Yeah, I was just about to say that because I was going to ask whose land it was, but if it's really unclaimed land in that sense, it's
Yeah.
dangerous. And it's a kids' playground area.
Yeah.
And we have taken things down. Can I ask as well, I mean, we've passed to cut the trees down. Are we replanting? Have we got some sort of idea to replace those trees, if not for the same one, but at least somewhere plant another tree for one that we've taken down?
If you resolve to do so, that would be the borough councillors, the borough's strap line would, yes, please carry on and fell, but where possible, replace. But you've got
I think we should replace. So I think we're all agreed with that, aren't we?
Yeah.
We should replace.
Yeah.
I think we've made decisions in the parts to plants that we haven't actioned as well.
Well, I think we've got enough of a green agenda with this current council.
Yeah.
Push that one through with a bit more energy.
I don't think that'll be an issue now, Jackie. Martin.
On Valley Road, things, there were a lot of trees there planted for First World War people.
Yeah, I'm about to come on to, with your permission, Chair, I'll come on to the
Yeah, please do.
Mentioned in the reports was 1003, a very impressive horse chestnut right next to our brand new bridge, which in the report was not shown as needing work, but was shown as being in poor physiological condition, suffering from canker, but was considered to have a fair structural condition. It looked a solid piece of work, but then it managed to throw a couple of tons of branches onto the path at the weekend, which if you've been walking underneath it, you're being casualty now. We've cleared that. We sent the photos to Monica again, the tree officer, saying we believe it's canker. What are our options here? And I sent you the photos of it. She gives you the decision of to fell or to prune, so it's safe for anyone walking underneath. She basically says, yeah, that is a diseased tree. There are occasions where well pruned trees will recover from canker, but there are plenty of occasions where they won't. So although it's a magnificent specimen, the choice is yours to fell or to try and prune. If we fell it, we have to replant, but it's a horse chestnut, and by the time it reaches that size, it'll be So
none of us will see it. Kath.
With you. It was very nice to see it was in the report, so the report covered it. We are working through the rest of the report, but that is something I do need a decision on. Chair, over to yourself.
Kath.
I'd be in favour of trying to save it at least, because there was recommendations about cutting down the canopy or something, wasn't there, and leaving it for another year to see how it went. So I'd much rather try and save it, because it is a magnificent tree.
Does anyone think we should just cut it down? No. So if we can prune it and try and save it.
Yeah, we will crack on with that straight away. I only covered the trees that were considered for urgent work and the one who decided to give me a shot over the weekend. We are going through the rest of the report. And to keep up to date, we'll have to repeat this exercise, I believe, every 18 months.
Right.
Back to you.
Okay, so and the remaining works are just something that we would normally
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Right.
we're going through, we're sort of checking, and then we apply to the borough if we think we have to prune, uproot, etc.
Okay, so you've got a resolution about the works that's needed doing, and to I didn't ask for proposals and that, but we're unanimously of the opinion that we should try and save the tree.
Okay.
Okay. Are we all, everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Great. Right then. So next we have Little Hayfield Clough Works.
You paid, or you're about to pay, I think today or last month, for the allocated £500 of the their preferred contractor, Mr. Chapman. Had a request from the Little Hayfield Advisory Group. Could they have one more day's work from him? And in effect, that's all. I read the email from him to them. It was his work on the goat willow that came from the tree survey stopped him going ahead. So in effect, we could say that he has done the work of the tree survey at the cost of what we basically. I'm saying, can I have another day's work for approximately £100?
I propose that.
Seconded.
All in favour? Okay. Anything else with the Little Hayfield Clough Works?
There will be when we meet them, Chair. At the moment, we're okay.
Okay. Agenda item 15, we're moving to part 2. So that takes us to, and we've done 16, 17, the group reports. Little Hayfield Advisory Group, I suppose that comes under the same thing as the Clough Plan when we meet them.
But I'll think we're going to have to meet with them on Zoom now, Chair, so I'll set a date with you and we'll aim for some time in February.
Great, great. Traffic Management Committee, you've not met?
No.
No. Climate Emergency Group, have they
Yeah,
met?
I've got a brief report, Tony. We did meet last month. Yeah, what happened? The report is very positive, and some of it really, as I spoke to Eva prior to the meeting, overlaps with the traffic group. I'll come on to that in a moment, but the first thing I'd like to report is that I've developed a relationship to some extent with the Woodland Trust via most of you will be familiar with Tony Moss. He is keen and on trees, planting trees. He was actually part of the climate group when we first formed it. I think he came to the first 2 or 3 meetings, but he's very much a practical man, and he likes to sort of get things done. And I've referred on to him to not farmers, but characters in Tunel who've both got quite a bit of land. You may know them. One of them's the father of one of my footballers in the under-17s team, and they've come to an arrangement to plant trees in an orchard situation in the land in Tunel, in both these areas of land, which is really good. And Tony is going to supervise it with anyone he can. I'm not sure how expert he is in this regard, but he has got a close relationship with the Woodland Trust. So I'm really pleased about that, because it's something which we can push forward on in the carbon capture part of the climate emergency. So that's very, very positive. As I say, I'm delighted with that. The second thing is, I haven't mentioned this to Dave yet, but I did speak to Eva briefly, that Roland Strube, who has started a mini car club. Dave knows I'm a member of it, the only member of it, because I don't have a car myself. So I use Roland's car as and when I need it, and I book it via a website. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is that Roland has got quite positive and progressive ideas of how he's going to move this forward. And he's already established a link with the Royal. Mark, I think, is the landlord in there, or Martin, who has agreed to give him some, well, they're meeting very shortly, but he's had a positive response regarding putting some electric charging points in the Royal not immediately, but in the near future, and possibly getting some funding via the group he's been using before. I think once again it's an EU group, and there's another group called Charge My Street, and it enables people who would like to use the electric cars, because you probably realize that if you haven't got your own place to park your car, it's very difficult to recharge the battery. And that is causing a big complication, one of the many complications. I know they're extremely expensive as well, but he's going to try and develop some form of understanding with the Royal, and he would like to meet us to discuss some of these ideas. So I did suggest to Eva prior to the meeting, and perhaps just wanted to alert you to it as well, Dave, as the other member of the traffic group, so that we could perhaps meet via Zoom, Andy, in the next couple of months, once Roland sort of tidies up his proposals. So they're the two main things. Obviously, we've discussed the decarbonise information sheet, but they're the three things I'd like to report back to the group. But as I say, I'm particularly delighted with the planting of the trees up in these two farms in Tunel. That's about it, I think, Tony.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Mick. The one thing I would say is that I know the borough have put in charging points, and they've had quite a lot of funding, which has been handled by DCC. I think it's actually money that's come from elsewhere, EU or wherever, but they're handling it. So
that's right. I believe he's onto that as well, Tony.
Right. I think that is very, very important. I mean, you know, you look at large parts of Hayfield, and it's just impossible in the present circumstances to have an electric car. And you just couldn't do it. Terraced houses and footpaths and things. The
idea here also, Tony, is for these cars to be made available for people maybe to consider then you having a second car in the village, because a lot of the parishioners have got second cars, and it may be an incentive if they knew there was a backup somewhere that they might choose to use the car club.
Yeah.
But it's
the only thing I would warn is that I have heard instances of these charging points, particularly the domestic ones that people have got in the garages, their own garages, not lasting very long and breaking down after 18 months. Someone I know, and they wanted, the company bought it off. He's got a 3-year warranty on his new car, shiny new car, 18 months, the charging point goes, and they wanted £500 to come out and repair it. So, you know, you do need, in order to maintain the service, you do need to make a profit for when you're getting hits like that. So, which people tend to forget about, the wear and tear. Okay, thanks for that, Mick. Educational charity, I don't think there's anything there, is there? No. Anything from the football club? I don't suppose there is at the minute, is there?
No, not playing at the minute, Tony, so nothing to report.
Same with the village hall, it's closed. Arden Quarry, not a lot to report. 2 weeks ago, I reported that it had been smelling twice, but that's about all that I can tell you about that. Hayfield Quarry, anybody?
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. And I think, have you anything else to report about the community orchard other than what we've just discussed?
No, I was instructed to form a steering group or a management group at the last meeting, which I have done. And we've had a couple of meetings.
Right.
That's it. The rest of it, you know.
Great. Okay. Which brings us to the finance accounts for payments. To authorise payments to the accounts as shown below. There's 5 payments there. Anybody got any comments, or do they just want to propose? Jackie?
I've checked them.
Oh,
right.
Against the invoices, and so has Martin.
No. The solar farm feasibility report. This is a second report. Have we got money for this?
Yeah, it's gone in.
Yeah. It was in. We already had that before we paid it over, or before we have to pay it over.
Yeah,
that was part of the deal.
It's in the financial report, isn't it, from the last meeting?
And
Yes.
the finance report will have another update because of this second payment now, because this will totally make us look weird on other works.
And then
Yeah.
we reclaim the VAT, which gets us up
Yes.
to the total.
Yeah.
So may I propose that we authorize the payments?
Okay, Eva seconding them. All those in favour, please? Okay, that's carried unanimously.
Who's pressing the buttons tonight? Just so
I'll do it.
Kath,
Not me, I'm sorry.
Kath, can someone else press the buttons?
Uh,
Mr. Toft?
I can do it tomorrow morning.
That's fine. As long as if you just message me, the pair of you, when you've done it, so I can tell. I'd ask maybe. They're chasing me.
Yeah.
are they?
They're always yes.
Okay, so the date of the next council meeting will be the 3rd of March, will it not? And the next finance meeting will be the 17th of Feb.
Yeah.
And because of the private and personal nature of the agenda item, it's a staff matter. I propose that the public and press are excluded from the next part of the meeting. Will somebody second that? Dave Toft seconded it. Okay, all in favour? Yeah, sufficient numbers.